What is up, AR students, parents? We are here in week 3 of relationship goals. That's right. We have made it through 2 weeks already. We had a little bit of a gap due to weather there, but we've made it through 2 weeks of relationship goals, and we are here at week 3. And again, I'm so excited that we're having these conversations with your students. We've learned since we've started relationship goals that for some of these students, this is their first experience talking about relationships and sex in a way that's helpful. They've certainly not heard the church talk about it, whether they're young and we're in AR kids, or if they're totally new to the church, or maybe they just weren't around when we've had these conversations before at Asher Ridge, but we're having them now, and that's what's really, really great. I love being able to watch your students squirm a little bit about the awkward, but then also get to the root of it. Get to explore what it is that God really wants for their relationships. Our small group leaders too have been giving me great reports, great feedback about the awkwardness, but also the fact that students are looking at them and nodding and thinking and pausing before giving responses. And that's exciting because that means they're thinking about it. And even if we are not getting really chatty 6th and 7th graders about this whole relationships thing, that's okay because they're thinking about it. They're processing the information. They're processing what it is that God really wants for them in their relationships, and that's remarkable. I know for me, I never heard anything about relationships from the church, from my youth pastor, from our students ministry until I was a 10th grader, and I was with them since early 6th grade. So that's 4 years of me learning what everyone else has to say about relationships before learning what it is that God says about the relationships that He wants for me. And so that's really exciting. I'm so glad that we're here in week 3. Week 1, just to rehash a little bit, week 1 was about this idea that relationship rules don't really work, and instead let's do goals. And we can get rid of rules as long as we're setting up ourselves for success in terms of our goals, the ways that we believe God wants us to behave in our relationships, what the long-term goal is. More on that in just a moment. And just building up this concept, this framework of relationship goals. And then last week we talked about how important it is to not become a slave to a relationship, right? Not to be mastered by a relationship, because that can happen, whether it's something that could happen in the way that we interact physically, but certainly beyond that, emotionally and socially. And there's a pressure that comes from relationships, and we can't be mastered by that. The second we give up our ability to make decisions is the second we're going to end up in a place we don't want to be. And that's what we talked about last week. And it was really good conversation to have with the students. I was hanging out with the high schoolers, and it was really cool to see them think out loud about the concept of being mastered by anything, but certainly by a relationship. So here we are, week 3. And this week, the bottom line is that long-term success is better than short-term satisfaction. And that's right. I am talking about exactly what you think about when I say short-term satisfaction. I think it's very important that our students know and hear from me and hear from their small group leaders that what they look at online is important, right? It matters. It's not something that only affects them, and it's not something that's never going to affect the rest of their lives. It will. And so this week, I am going to say the word pornography to all of our students, middle school and high school. So if this is something that your students have not heard about yet, please take the time between now and Sunday morning to have that conversation with them. Chances are they have heard about it. Even if you've not talked with them about it, they've probably heard about it at school, on the school bus, on the baseball field, wherever it might be, on a hike. Like, there's all kinds of places where a student could get exposed to that sort of thing. I know for me, I was exposed when I was in 4th grade, right? Which feels really early, but for some of our students, that's just the reality, right? That's just the way it happens. And so I'm going to talk about that this week, how if we are willing to give up our long-term success for short-term satisfaction, then there's going to be some repercussions down the road. And what we look at does affect the way we view other people's bodies, both the way we view people that we are attracted to or the people that we want to emulate. Both of those things are impacted by what we watch online. Right? Like if you're a male student, seeing both the male and female body in a certain way, in a certain space, is going to impact the way you view your own body as a male person, but also the way you view a female body. And then on top of that, it normalizes so many of the things that are just very unhelpful when it comes to relationships, very unhealthy, as a matter of fact. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. I will give you the scripture reference. Hold on, let me grab it real quick. It is 1 John chapter 2, Verses 16 and 17, and I really like the New Living Translation for this. It says, "For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our accomplishments and possessions. But these are not from the Father, they're from the world. And this world is fading away, along with everything that people crave. But anyone who does what pleases God will live forever." This concept of, hey, a lot of these things, they're gonna go away, right? The way we view our world, but the things we have, the things we don't have, they're all gonna fade. And the ways that we view our relationships now matters, because it's gonna impact the way we do our relationships later on. I'm gonna bring it back a little bit to week 1, where we talk about, hey, there's a time for preparation and a time for payoff. Ecclesiastes talked about there's a time for everything. There's a time to prepare for a relationship, and there's a time to actually be in it. And the running joke with our students is, I don't see any of them getting engaged anytime soon. Therefore, we're all preparing. We're all in this space of preparing for a relationship in the future. And so if we're in that space, if we're trying to prepare for the future, if we're trying to prepare for that long-term success, then what we do right now, even though it might be satisfying, isn't going to get us there. And that's just the reality. That's just what we've seen in study after study. I'm not going to throw numbers at them, but it's very true that we see in study after study that the way pornography twists young people's minds is truly impactful. And it ripples out for years and years and years. And so just hoping that our students have a frank conversation, because it's been a long time running that people think that this is a genuinely male problem. But again, studies have shown it's not just a male problem. This is everyone. And it could be driven both from like the curiosity angle, right? Like you've got a young 6th or 7th grader that's really curious and wants to know what's going on, all the way to full blown, you're addicted to it, can't get away from it, need to have that sort of short-term satisfaction in order to even get through your day, right? And there's a wide range in between. We're not going to get into a lot of those specifics, but again, we have resources available for you as parents. If you go to those Josh Shipp videos on YouTube, there are some specifically for this topic. So please, if you need to have these conversations with your students now, go check those resources out. It's going to be super, super helpful. And I hope that we're having conversations that are awkward at church so that they can have even more awkward conversations with you. And I'm not sorry about it, because I think it's so important for our students to see and hear their parents be willing to have the hard conversations, right? If a student grows up only hearing his parents or her parents arguing about money, then they're going to have an unhealthy attachment to money. Same goes for anything else, right? If you're not willing to have that conversation with your student, then it's going to be even harder for them to have that conversation with a spouse someday. It's going to be even harder for them to have a conversation with their children someday, if that's where they end up. So please take this opportunity, talk to your students today or tomorrow or Sunday morning right before church. Heck, you could even talk to them on the way to church about it. It would be even more awkward, but you know what? That's what we're here to do. And I will say, just for a heads up, after this series is over, we're going to do a series called What Would Jesus Do? And it is a little bit more of a softball series, so not something that you're going to have to stress about. So I promise there's a break coming. It's in a couple weeks. You're going to get off the hook as far as having hard conversations, awkward conversations with your students. But I'm hoping right now we're setting up the framework for conversations in the future, both about sex and relationships and about other things that have to do with your students' faith. So please reach out if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, have any thoughts, you want to hear more about what I might specifically say, feel free to shoot me a text, email me back. It's been really great hearing from all of you so much in the past couple weeks, and I can't wait to see you all on Sunday. We will talk to you later. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you Sunday, 10 a.m. Ashridge High School. See you there.